it sort of feels from a perception standpoint that they have to decide if they're royalty or they're celebrity, because there's a very different persona and perception mapping that goes with both of those.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. So there's always so much royal news to get to, and I'd love to get your expertise on some of this because, you know, Harry and Meghan have been in the news a lot lately. And of course, most recently with their Netflix series canceled. What was your reaction to that?
You know, I think it's easy to look at who got canceled and not realize what Netflix is going through, right? Because, I mean, they're slashing across the board. And when their numbers came out and subscribership is down and they're losing revenue, I mean, it kind of stands to reason that they would make changes. I think when we then lump in who got canceled, literally canceled, not social media canceled. It begs questions, but they're still keeping some of the programming that was slated and the contract is still there. So I'm sure they're moving forward, perhaps just readjusting their priorities.
Right. Well, I'm sure, you know, a lot of people see the headlines and they're like, oh, maybe Netflix wants to distance themselves from Harry and Meghan. Yes, you said like they have this big contract and a lot of things still in the works. But do you feel like Harry and Meghan are kind of getting this blow after blow, it seems like in the press?
You know, I think they're still trying to find their footing is what it looks like. And so they're trying a lot of different things, and some of them are giving them footing and some of them are feeling a little slippery. And perhaps that's what we're seeing, you know, as they're going through this. The rest of us are watching and we're drawing assumptions and we're making, you know, we're forming opinions about what we believe is happening. But some of this can also just be them trying to figure out who they're going to be in this world.
Right.
I kind of normal.
I agree with you. And I think that happened with their Spotify program, because we've only gotten one episode of that. And that was a few months ago. And it seems like maybe they're going back to the drawing board when it comes to that. Maybe it's kind of like they're throwing darts at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Well, it kind of reminds you of a teenager, right? The teenager's trying not to be their parents, but be an adult, but they don't quite know what that means yet. And I don't mean to minimize what they're going through, but it sort of feels from a perception standpoint that they have to decide if they're royalty or they're celebrity, because there's a very different persona and perception mapping that goes with both of those. You don't really get to straddle both. Maybe if you're Grace Kelly, but we didn't have social media then, so.
I think you make a really good point, because I feel like that is probably their issue, because they are probably one of the most recognizable couples in the world. But they wanted to straddle that royal life. And, you know, when they were told that they couldn't, they're still using their HRH titles and things. So it seems like they're still pushing the royal life, but don't really want to be associated with it either.
Yeah. And one of the things we learn is you sometimes don't get to have it both ways.
Yeah.
And when you think about royal life and the pageantry of the institution, there's rules that come with that, and there's protocols and there's rewards. But celebrity also has rules and protocols and rewards. It also has a lot of risk, and being handled is different. Being, you know, managed is very different. So I don't know how they would find a way to bridge both, but they kind of need to choose.
Yeah, no. And I mean, in your opinion, what do you think that they're going to do? I mean, it's almost like they have to choose that celebrity route, since the royal family told them that there is no place for them to kind of do both.
Well, yeah, when the door shuts, it's kind of hard to still make a decision. Right. You know, and I think what was interesting in Tina Brown's book is you mentioned in the email is, I think there's this idea that she grew up in celebrity, right? And when you grow up in celebrity, I grew up in Hollywood. I understand that culture. There's a lot that you take for granted, and that looks to be in place in a royal institution, but it isn't the same. Yeah. Right. The responsibility, the loyalty, the protocol's different. And so it probably would feel more natural to her. And I'm guessing, because I don't know them, to want the celebrity. Yeah. There's a lot of risk that comes with that. There's a lot of treacherous landscape. And that might be something Harry's not as comfortable with, because he grew up in a very different culture, which is the institution's culture. So I could see them almost being pulled in different directions, her going celebrity and him still feeling the comfort of the institution, but being attracted to the freedom that you supposedly get with celebrity.